Hi, beautiful souls. It's Sadhana. Welcome to my channel. And today we're going to do another deck combo video. I'm going to use a few more pip decks, non-scenic pips, and just guide you through some pairs and how I work and read with pip decks. There's been a few questions that have come up from viewers, and so I thought I would just kind of carry on. This is the reading that we ended with yesterday. This is from the Soul cards, and this is from these two cards are from the Luminess Tarot. And I felt that I didn't give this reading enough time. It seemed like it was worth a few more comments, and so I've pulled these cards back out and I'm going to just kind of carry on and see what comes up for me. The other thing I wanted to say was that when you're watching a tarot video and there's a demo reading, or there is a reading for another person, or however the reading appears and it resonates with you, please know that it is for you. There is a reason that you have tuned into this particular video at this particular time, and you're looking at these cards and this message comes up, and it is. If it does resonate for you, it is for you. So just kind of going back, Luminess Tarot and the Soul Trees. This is the card of resistance. We have a really dark color here. Resistance is a really kind of tricky energy. One of the things I did note was that there is some green here. So there is a sense of, it's not entirely a hopeless card, right? There's a resistance does still have potential to work through. And for me, that color green shows that hope. And it's really important to look at all the levels of color on a card. There's also a bit of gold here, which shows the fiery energy. When I laid these cards out today, I also saw something else, and that was a vein network. So it felt very, it felt like, when, I don't know how to describe it, when you have an injury or you have some swelling in your physical body and you feel like your veins, your arterial system is really kind of tight, and if you touch it, it's super sensitive. Well, that's what this feels like to me. It kind of feels like the tight string on the violin, and so let's explore that a little bit more. When you use an oracle card, please, really take the time to look at the imagery, the colors, not just the keyword. And in this deck, we've got something also kind of hidden below, which is really brilliant with this deck. And I love it when deck creators do that. And that is the border is translucent, so you can see the artwork below. So sometimes that can be really important as well, too. Here we have two court cards, more youthful kind of energy. We have the Knight of Cups and the Maiden of Wands. He is facing toward the resistance. One of the things important with this Knight of Cups is we have a lot of symbols here. The Ouroboros, so that is around this lunar energy. So the lunar energy really speaks to everything that he is working with. So he's very comfortable in the lunar energy, with emotions, with his femininity, with his softness, with all that the sacred feminine energy embodies, and very comfortable with working with shadow and with the difficult emotions. But this also tells me that he's willing to move forward. He's willing to change, and he's very like water. Water is hopefully moving. When it's stagnant, of course, it's not positive energy. But this tells me that he's willing to change. He's willing to work through this. And I'm using the pronoun he, but remember with court cards, these 16 court cards are all aspects of self. And so he, she, it, they, whatever pronoun you choose to use is an aspect of yourself. And so if you kind of feel these characteristics in yourself, then that is a part of you that is rising to the surface at this time. Of course, these can represent specific people. And, that does come up. But for me, for the most part, the court cards represent energy. So yeah, so a fluidity. He's able to change and work through this. He's facing the resistance. He's looking at the resistance head on, face on. There's not, his back is not to it. So that's really, really positive. To me, this is a relationship reading. Whether this is a relationship with two people or whether this is a relationship with yourself and things that you are working through with yourself. Remember that water can extinguish fire, and too much water can extinguish fire. And so it's very, very easy for, this too much emotion to, what does extinguish mean? It means dampen her heart, dampen her passion. I'll talk about this in two different ways. So if he fell in love with her because she's sexy and passionate and fiery and she loves adventure and she loves to take risks and she's creative, and his emotions became too overbearing, and all of a sudden she started to kind of, lose that passion, then he would not be attracted to her as he was in the beginning. So this kind of unhealthy nervous system has expanded and grown to cause this tension between the two of them. What if this is about, I'm going to look at this in the opposite direction too. What if this is about self and you have become super emotional? So let's suppose that you are dwelling on a broken relationship, or you are dealing with grief, or for some reason you're dreading going back to meeting some friends from the past, or something has brought something up. So your emotions are just completely over the top. Well, that is going to take away your ability to do those things which are represented by fire. It's going to dampen your creativity. All that emotion is going to make it harder for you to feel that sense of spark and fire. So maybe that's in your sexuality with your partner, or maybe that is in your creativity. Sorry, I said this is going to be with self. Maybe this is in your ability to get up and start the day. So we need to be really careful about one element overpowering the other. Now she is her body language is facing straight on ahead, right? So she's charging ahead. She's not looking at this resistance. She's not paying attention to the resistance. She doesn't understand what this tension is because she's kind of comfortable in this fiery energy, and she really would benefit from a little more compassion and a little bit more, understanding what this lunar energy is. Here we have sun and we have moon. We probably have too much sun and too much moon, and so bringing this relationship into right relationship into balance is about taking away a little bit of fire and a little bit of water so they can better understand each other, and this resistance can begin to dissipate over time. So how does that happen? When she's charging straight ahead, he's willing to do it, and it seems like there's no way that they can come together. Are there any cues in these cards to help how to give the querent, or to give you an idea of how this could possibly work? For me, the best piece of advice is to meet this energy exactly where it's at. And to meet this energy exactly where it's at. Not to try to change it, but to meet it. So the question is this person, is this energy able to reach out and just to lend a hand and be a listening ear to this person? Is he able to reach out and to meet her where she is at? In order for this relationship to work, there has to be an understanding of the extremities of these two elements. And if you are initially attracted to this kind of energy, and if she is initially attracted to this kind of energy, there has to be a sense of maturity, right? There has to be a willingness to explore that energy and to not just be with it at the beginning of a relationship, but to explore it in a deeper level, so this resistance can start to disappear. I shuffle the deck. The next soul card is Unique Gifts, which speaks beautifully to what each of these two have to work on. They have to appreciate each other's, unique gifts. That's just a perfect card. I reshuffled the deck, by the way, and that just happened to be the next card on the top. So there's a lot of things that can be pulled out of a 3-card reading. And I used to spend a lot of time doing Celtic crosses and 9 cards. I really like 9 cards because you can read it in so many different directions. But I think taking your time with a 3-card reading can be a really beautiful, really worth your while. So I wanted to introduce and share a couple other decks in this video because sometimes it's really hard to read pip decks, and that last draw on the Luminess Tarot didn't really get me any non-scenic pips. So I'm going to do a few other decks. And here is, I love this deck. This is the Tarot Days OR by Lori LePage. Really full of color and life. It's a very fiery deck, very earthy deck as well too. So earth colors and fire colors. A little bit of blues and greens, but for the most part, it's very, very earthy. And yeah, beautiful Marseilles deck. As always, I will link the where you can get these decks below in the description box. So we're going to use that one. And then, I don't know if this seems like a bit of a weird pairing, but this has been quite a challenging deck for me to learn how to read. And when I was playing with my decks, I decided that I was going to do a few draws with these 2 decks together. Why? Well, they're both kind of challenging to read. And the Luminous Void Tarot is a watercolor-based deck, right? Lots of reds, lots of oranges. And there seems to be some kind of, I don't know what to say. They seem to be well suited for each other. So this one is not intended to be a Marseilles deck. These are, for the most part, I would say semi-scenic pips. It's a very intuitive deck. So the people on the deck some of them have very strange shapes, and their bodies are doing unusual things. Some of the cards are very, you really need to stretch your imagination to read some of the cards. Some of them look like straight up Rider-Waite-Smith, others don't. And so for this deck, you really need to kind of blur your vision. You need to pull in all of your experience from reading Rider-Waite-Smith, Marseilles, and just kind of allow whatever needs to arise to arise. The other thing I wanted to show you, because somebody asked me about my shuffling on a video, this is a really large deck, so you cannot riffle shuffle this deck. And as you know, I love to riffle shuffle. So when a deck is really, really thick, I usually, this is not going to work on the camera, break the deck in half to shuffle it, and that makes it a lot easier. And then you can take the 2 halves and take half out of one and shuffle the other. Let me just try that again, because this should work. Ugh. Very even with half the deck, it's very, very thick cardstock. So yeah, so you can do that. And that deck I was just using before, the Luminess Tarot, has a very high GSM, and you cannot riffle shuffle it. So I do the same thing. I divide the deck in half and then riffle shuffle it, and then I take the other half and shuffle those 2 together and shuffle those 2 together. So that's what I usually do. Okay, so here we have the Luminous Void Tarot, and those are all kind of mixed up now. I mean, as far as right side up and upside down, but that's okay. And I'm going to leave that one in the center. And then here we have the Marseilles deck. And I've also got the Hedge Witch just handy here, because when I was playing with these cards, there was something that seemed to be needed as far as I really like the plant energy in a Marseilles deck. And in the Tarot des Zohar, I don't feel the plant energy as much. So here we have the Five of Cups. And when I read Marseille, I tend to, like, I have a list of general meanings for the numbers, so numerologically, and here we have the Six of Swords. So when I think of sixes, I think of, I'm going to bring out a book that has been really useful in understanding pips. Just let me get it for you. I'm pretty sure this book is out of print. I initially purchased this book. One of the first decks I spent a lot of time with was the Robin Wood. And Isabel Kliegman uses the Robin Wood deck in her descriptions. So that is the deck that's featured throughout this book. And this is a book about the minors and the court cards. And it's amazing kind of journey through the tree of life, as well as looking at a bit of numerology and all kinds of things. And anyway, I highly recommend this book. It's one of the first tarot books that I purchased. Where was I with this? So we have the Seven of Swords and we have the Five of Cups. So first of all, I'm going to look, six. The Six of Swords and the Five of Cups. And I have been reading Rider-Waite-Smith for a long time, longer than I've been reading Marseille. So sometimes those meanings do come forth, and I automatically see favorite decks or favorite images in my mind. But then what I try to do is kind of go back to what the basic numbers mean. And I know that the sixes are on the center of the tree of life. And we also want to look to, in the chakra system, at the center we have the heart chakra. So the sixes represent, beauty and harmony. They're really kind of very peaceful, and they feel very expansive to me, numbers. And so whenever a six comes up, it's kind of like a breath of fresh air, as opposed to a five, and fives are usually a little more challenging. But I do my best to kind of look at the energy of the element, as well too with Marseille. Don't discount the potential, the possibility to read some of the subtle messages on the card, because that can give you, much more information. And here we have two pips, right? So there's not a lot of pictures to go on. So something is something is shaking up the beauty and the peace and whatever is going on here in the Six of Swords. So the Six of Swords is about the mind and thinking. So this is like a contentment of the mind. In the Five of Swords, there would have been a disruption of thinking, a disruption of the mind, a disruption of voice, thought, communication. But there has been a coming to terms of all of that in the Six of Swords. And then we have, this disruptive emotion over here. So there is something that is still going on that is kind of upsetting you. Like you thought you came to terms with it, but you actually didn't. It's still very much there under the surface. And so we have this really kind of watery, semi-scenic pip deck. And here we have another minor, right? So we have Eight of Wands. So here we have air, fire, and water. So a fairly balanced reading. Eight of Wands tells me things are moving forward. They are moving forth. So this isn't as bad as you think it is. But it's still something that needs attention. And I definitely wouldn't, check it off or press the done button quite yet. If we look to eights, there is still a bit of, and this is the central card. So this is kind of tying this message together. So this there needs to be a commitment. So whenever you see eights, I think of the word commitment, dedication, work. And there needs to be some, if we look to wands and fire and creativity and that kind of thing, there needs to still be some passion in working through this. You can't let go of this, whatever this issue was, quite yet. You really need to keep working at it, and don't give up, because you're still moving forward and you're almost at completion. And yeah, so depending on, what you asked, it was probably a pretty challenging question. And I would say that you're almost through it, but you really need to stay focused and stay with it. You're moving in the right direction, but you're not quite there yet. Actually, let's pull the Tarot des Arts first. Okay. So we have a Lover's card here. And, in this deck, it's kind of seems kind of dark to me, but for a Lover's card, right, there's lots of browns, but the browns also speak to earthiness. And I may have said that about this deck. There's a real sense of, and I peeked at this card. I know what this card is, so I'll just turn it over. So you can start to formulate a reading in your head too, if you're a reader. There's a real sense of, when I see all these colors, what I think of is all the issues that are really important in the root chakra, and that is mending and healing energy and relationships with family. So it's about safety and trust and security, and it's about leaving the home. It's about being comfortable moving in and out of the family circle. And so, like I said before, sometimes really crazy stuff comes up for me when I do these spontaneous readings, but this, to me, what I thought about was like an arranged marriage, and where your family has set you up with, somebody that they've known for a long time, or maybe even, closer in a circle here. And so that there needs to be a sense of trust in family, that family has your back. And like, how in the world would I would never think about that with the Lover's card. Like, that's something I've never said before in my life. And just allowing myself to allow the colors to come forth, that's what came up for me. So this new adventure is very much about this relationship that's being introduced by family. And it might seem a little strange. It might seem a little risky. Like, why in the world would you be? And maybe your parents didn't set you up, but somebody in your close circle of friends set you up with somebody that seemed maybe not entirely appropriate, somebody you wouldn't have decided to date on your own. But I want you to give it a really good chance, because it might turn out to be the best adventure of your life. Here we have the Ten of Swords. So we've got the Ten of Swords here. And for me, the Ten of Swords is not always, it's not necessarily a difficult card, and especially if we look at this numerologically, if we look at this energetically. So the 10 is about completion, about the end. Here we have the beginning, here we have the alpha, here we have the omega. And the completion of what? The completion of wrestling with your mind. The completion of wrestling with that part of yourself that that incessant mental chatter, that needy ego-ness. And I really like that interpretation of this card. It feels like, okay, I can now step more into a place of trust and allow the big S self to kind of take over. So yeah, this is very much a reading about trusting something that you feel a little bit uncomfortable with. And here we've got two major cards as well too, so you really need to pay attention to this. And also we have the alpha and the omega. So this feels like slightly uncomfortable, but also like one of the best things that you could be doing for yourself at this time. Oh my God, Sadhana, where do you come up with this stuff? I don't know, like The art of reading is about just allowing whatever needs to come forth to come forth. Here we have the Three of Swords. So the nice thing about reading Marseilles Deck is that we don't have that, the heart pierced by the three swords. We need to look at the number 3. We need to look at the energy of the element of swords, the element of air, in relationship to whatever's going on in the Chariot. So the Chariot is about moving forward in a balanced way. It's about being able to steer your right hand and your left hand so that you move together in the same direction. If you don't have control over your yin and your yang, your moon and your sun, then you're going to be out of balance, and your chariot's going to split in 2 directions and go the wrong way. The Chariot is a card of movement. It's a card of action. It can be a card of travel. So what does that movement and that moving forward have to do with this? So 3 is the first completion, numerologically speaking. It's also a very sacred number. And we need to kind of be like the 3, the 6, and the 9 are really important in that they really show a sense of growth and production and possibility. So you are very much moving toward possibility, and this is a very optimistic reading. What you're moving towards in relationship with the element here could be quite intellectual. It could be spiritual. Maybe you're moving toward the reason I say spiritual is because when I think of 3, I always think of the Trinity. The Trinity in all religions and all spirituality there's always a Trinity. And anyway, that's just what came up for me. So there's something about spirituality here that you're moving towards. That's what it feels like for me. And not so esoteric, but almost like an investigation of, like if you were, sorry, I always go to yoga because I'm a yoga teacher. If you were studying yoga, this might actually be a more disciplined study of some of the historical aspects of yoga, right? Because we're looking at also the intellectual mind here and learning to articulate that and communicate that. And I love how this sword is just like full direction. There's a softness with the swords on the outside, like they're kind of bending around that, but there's still a sense of purpose, right? The Ace of Swords is now turned in the opposite direction, and it's like it's your support, it's your foundation. So what are you moving towards? Okay, so not an easy reading. This is going in a very different direction from what I was talking about. So how do I bring this in? So here we have the 9 of Wands. And remember I said this deck, the figures are kind of, unusual. This is not the kind of figure that you would expect to see in a 9 of Wands. And so the 9 of Wands, is about uncertainty. There's something that is not quite complete. There's something that is perhaps abandoned. But if I go to all of my resources and I kind of draw in and just talk about the card, Rider-Waite-Smith images, right? So you've come a long way, baby. Pat yourself on the back. This has been a lot of hard work. You might have a lot of battle wounds. Just kind of go with this and bring in all of the resources that you have to kind of figure out what this is about, so that what you were talking about in the Marseilles deck makes sense, and you're delivering a cohesive message. So this to me feels like a new direction. You decided that, how can I say that? Even though you were very, very passionate, so Wands, right? You are very, very passionate about what you were working on. It was causing you so much strife. Like, it was physically exhausting. And sometimes when things are physically exhausting, they're mentally exhausting, they're emotionally exhausting. And you you correctly gave that up, because, when we have what do you call it, a major card, it kind of tells me that, you know, things are back on track. If this, I'm not reading the cards upside down, and I can't remember if I turned this over, but there is sort of, you know, also anxiety associated with this card as well too. So this tells me that, you know, you're moving in the right way. So when you get a difficult reading like this, and the card in the center seems to be going in a different direction from the card on the outside, and remember we're looking at 2 tarot decks here, we're not looking at an oracle deck. So that makes things even more difficult. Very, very seldom do I put 2 tarot decks together. But I just wanted to, you know, I wanted to give this a try. So let's do just one more, and then I'm going to put a tarot deck, sorry, an oracle deck in the middle. This Ace of Cups feels like a breath of fresh air to me. I love the blues and the pinks, and this speaks to me of like a baby shower, baby blue, baby pink. There's a lot of, you know, real gentleness and softness here, and those colors to me speak of beginnings and potential and birthing something. And it's really, I know Cups is not about birthing as Wands is, but just the softness of those colors really kind of speaks to that baby boy, baby girl kind of thing. You have another major card over here. So we have the Magician, which is about creation, but very practical creation. And for me, when I look at the Magician, I also think about, you know, what tools, what experiences, what training that I have been through am I not using? What resources am I not using that are that are available to me? And then I think with the Magician, it's also really, really important just to check in with kind of the dark side of the Magician, right? Like, is there anything that I am doing that is not being authentic? Because the Magician is also, you know, a showman. And sometimes her actions are, you know, manipulative. And so somewhere in the back of my mind, I want to, you know, always be asking that question, even if the card is not upside down. But for the most part, this is a very, this is a card about creativity and starting something new and taking action to move forward with that. And then we have, and then we have the 10 of Fire. So we have the 10 of Batons, the 10 of Wands. So we have the completion of the suit of fire. So we have something being created, or at least that's what I kind of picked up here with the Ace of Cups as well too. So again, we have the Alpha and the Omega. So what happens when you have a beginning and an ending card in one reading? That tells me there's a lot of potential. A lot of potential for growth. This speaks of the fiery element. This speaks of a lot of passion. And we have this kind of energy on either side of this soft card of emotion. So perhaps this is about a new relationship, and this is about putting a lot of energy, a lot of your resources into this new relationship and really taking it seriously, because this is the Ace of Cups. This potential is not going to be around for a long time. The energy of the aces is short-lived, and so it would be in your best interest to really give this new emotional experience, whether it is a new relationship with a sweetheart or with whoever has come into your life. It could be a new friend, to give it, you know, give it your best go, because this is a lot of surgence on the outside of this card here. So let's just slide this deck out of the way. And I told you I had the Hedge Witch sitting here. The Hedge Witch is Ceola Thompson's plant botanical oracle. Love shuffling this deck. And the reason this deck works really, really well is because of its white space. And there's a lot that can come forth with this deck. And so this is really nice. I mean, if I'm going to pull one more card here, but resourcefulness. So we have the huckleberry, and we also have the Latin name on this card. We also have very subtle color cues on this card. So, you know, if this was the card that had come up, I kind of have a very similar message here, and that is to, you know, to this resourcefulness speaks very well to the magician. So bring in everything that you have, you know, to your current situation. This is fun, isn't it? So we have Le Pendu, which is the Hanged Man. We've had a lot of major cards over here, and that's kind of funny because the cards were shuffled really, really well. The Knight of Cups is moving toward the center. The Knight of Cups is possibly moving toward the Hanged Man, the energy of the Hanged Man. And so maybe he is in need of a timeout, in need of some space. And maybe he's moving from some, you know, difficult emotional situation. So the way to stabilize is perfect. And St. John's Wort is such a, you know, a healing kind of energy. So the way to stabilize and kind of calm yourself down is to, take some time off by yourself and find a way to look at the situation from a new perspective. You know, sometimes readings are a lot easier than others. So here we have violet, sweet smelling violet. Okay, let's just talk about this card in isolation because I think there's a lot that can be said about justice. And of course, we can look at this legally if you did have a legal question. I prefer not to answer legal questions in readings, but we also can look at this as more of a, you know, justice as karma as well too. So whatever has gone on before, your previous actions are going to dictate whether this is a positive or a negative card. But generally speaking, you know, in the justice card, the scales are in balance. And things have been brought into balance by the judge here or by the universe. And you might not be happy with this result from your perspective. And so please keep that in mind, that even though this is a card of balance, you might not perceive it that way because it's not exactly the intention or the expectation that you had. But it is just, and it is at this time for you in this particular situation, it is in your best interest, in your highest interest, whatever is over here or whatever is surrounding this. And so it might not seem for you like a positive card, but for you at this time, it is. And it just so happens that, yes, this is a positive reading, but the Justice card can as easily be in the center of a not so positive reading. So what we have here is the violet, and we have it tracked, very high frequency also with the color purple, and we have the Ace of Pentacles. So the work that you have done, the actions that you have taken previously have led you to this really beautiful place where you have manifested something in this material world. You know, this could be as simple as a bonus at work. This could be, you know, your new house. This could be your new job. This could be something that you have wanted to purchase or collect. You know, the Pentacles is very much about three-dimensional objects or things of this earth. Maybe you wanted to purchase a farm, right? It doesn't have to be an object. It could be something represented by the earth. But your hard work has brought you to this. And so that's what I wanted to say, that this card is neither good nor bad, and we need to give it, we need to keep this card in perspective. So regardless of what the other cards are, this is good for you. So if these had not been positive cards, it still would have been leading you in the best direction for you at this time. All right. That's kind of my take on the Justice card. All right, let's do one more. This is the Tarot de Maria Celia. And this is the US Games version in a tin. So nice portable little deck. It has kind of a unique coloring, perhaps a little bit like the Marshmallow Marseille, you know, lots of greens and pinks, but it also has that antique feel. One of the unusual things about this deck is, well, for me, the people are very cartoony. And I just had this thought, I did not pick out a cartoony oracle deck to pair with this, but if you had an oracle deck that had more cartoony characters on it, that might be kind of really fun to pair with this one. I feel like the plant botanical oracles work really well with Tarot de Marseille, and I'm not sure exactly why. It might have to do with the you know, the vines and the florals and the things that are woven through the pips, but I don't know, they work well for me when I'm reading with, when I'm combining Oracle and Marseille decks. This one is the Botanical Inspirations. I've used this before in other deck combinations. As I said before, I have no set way of turning the cards over. Sometimes I turn all three over and then I just pause and start to weave the story. Other times I will turn over the two tarot cards and start to talk, and other times I'll turn over the oracle card. So the oracle card here is very, you know, positive. This also reminds me of spring, so new beginnings, a new opportunity to start fresh, right? So something is growing. And I love the keyword cheerfulness here for the crocus, because I have a particular memory associated with crocus, and after the long, snowy, cold winter, this was often the first bloom that you would see emerging through the snow. So yeah, I have a really, you know, nice positive memory of that flower. And here we have a, you know, a more challenging card. So this central oracle card is going to elevate or help us understand, and this is also could be quite a challenging card as well too. So we have two challenging cards, and in the middle we have a more positive, a lighter card, an opportunity to, you know, start fresh, right? It's spring. It's like that energy of that the bulb emerging through the earth, and the sun is beginning to shine, but there's been some strife. And to me, this looks, I'm just going with the pentacles here, this looks like there's been a lot of strife at the office. And I want to say, maybe going out on a limb here, that you have been making more of this than it really is. There may have been some public displays of some public arguing in front of everybody at the office, and this has caused, you know, a lot of discontent. It's made things really, really, really challenging. And there might be a project that you are trying to, you know, push through to get to the end, and you can't decide which way to go. You know, different people have had different opinions, and there's a lot of hot, fiery opinions about how we're going to wind this up. And there's a kind of a, there's people that are pushing to hurry up and end this quickly. They don't want this dragging on for a long time. And this oracle card in the center tells me that, oh my God, you're making more of this than it really is. It really isn't as complicated as you think it is to wind this up. So you need to maybe just take a breath, please, or quite literally bring some flowers into the office, or take everybody out for lunch, or, you know, do something to kind of lighten the mood. That's what I wanted to say. Stop being a Debbie Downer. I would never say that I probably wouldn't say that in a reading to a querent, but you need to just, I mean, you're so close to finishing this up, and there is the possibility that not everybody will be pleased with the result, but you really are making more of this than is necessary. So This is really an important card here. You know, when we tend to get stuck in these battles, when we tend to get stuck in these whirlpools of energy, all we need is maybe somebody to laugh, or to quite literally bring in a bouquet of flowers, or to bring in a delicious meal, and then we can get a new perspective so we can, you know, push on and finish what we need to finish up. It's really interesting, and there's something about the importance of the color here. Like, this purple is really supporting and being understanding of the difficulty of the situation, right? It doesn't feel like this is just a token. It feels like this is really, take this seriously. Like, nourish yourself with that staff lunch, or, you know, I don't know. Something feels, this feels really important to resolve this situation. Okay, dignity, dahlia. So more of a summer flower, so you can always go with the seasons if you're aware of when the, you know, when these flowers come into bloom too. That can be helpful, as well as, of course, the medicine, if you're aware of the medicine of the plants. But you don't need to know that. You can just simply read it as, you know, using the keyword or going to the color. For me, the color here is red that is coming forth, even though there's a lot of orange, but I'm going with the red tones. And you can also, I might also go to red, but I'm here very much picking up on passion. And the Emperor is charging away or facing the past and moving in this direction. So there's something about dignity that has turned the Emperor around and leaving. So the leader, your leader, has lost dignity for some reason, or choosing not to be dignified. Why has your leader lost dignity? Why has your leader chosen to move away from dignity? And then here we have the Eight of Swords. This is really interesting. It's almost like the leader, or you as the leader. There was a lot of passion here. I know this is swords, but there's a lot of passion here. And I'm picking the passion up from the color red, the color orange, and there's a lot of heat. The Emperor moving away from this, because this is about commitment, and it feels like the Emperor was very much committed to seeing an idea through, or a thought through. There was a lot of energy, a lot of work, a lot of dedication put into this. But somewhere in the process, dignity was either compromised or lost. And why I'm saying that is because he's moving away. And so dignity needs to be restored. And so there might need to be somebody else that comes in to, you know, there might have been a hot and fiery, opinionated younger person at the office who just was the straw that broke the camel's back, and the leader just, you know, shook his hands and decided to, you know, leave the meeting or abandon the project. So I would, as a resolution, say that what you need to do in order to repair this situation is you need to bring dignity back to the situation, bring dignity back to your leader, so your leader can come back to your group, because you very much need the leader to help carry on with this. This feels very incomplete and very, very, very complicated. Please let me know if this reading resonates with any of you. I'm kind of intrigued, and I may just leave these cards on my table for a while and explore this reading a little further. Thank you very much for joining me today. I look forward to reading your comments below. Stay well, my friends. Namaste.